We all know that we cannot control how much water falls, how much rain comes. God's in control of that, but we can control our response.
City council members demanding answers after heavy flooding in New Orleans.
Not a single pump running. Lakeview is underwater and not a single pump is running.
We need to get the drainage system fixed if it's not fixed, for one thing.
But others say everything seemingly went according to plan.
We don't have any information that would suggest that the pumps were not working as designed.
The News at 5 starts right now.
Live, local, late breaking. This is WDSU News at 5.
The images are endless. Inches of water creeping into the homes and businesses of New Orleans residents and filling the roadways after just a few hours of heavy downpours on Saturday. Good evening. I'm Juliana Mazza. Businesses, houses and cars were all affected by Saturday's flooding. This is video from an apartment building that was flooded out. Residents there say the water came up fast. WDSU's Tammy Eswick is live in Mid-City tonight. Tammy, what can you tell us?
Well, this rain event seemed to have touched almost everyone in the city of New Orleans. Take a look behind me. You can see a flooded out car. Tonight, tow trucks are driving around to try and pull these cars off of the grass and out of the roadways. But we were actually talking to residents that were hit hard at home. We spoke to several people at a Mid-City apartment complex. They say the water came up fast, just like you said, Juliana. Some of the guys told us they had to jump on top of their beds because there was just so much water on the floor. One man in particular, Tyrone Claiborne, says he lost almost everything from food he just bought to pictures of his family. He was only able to salvage a few items that he's actually placed outside of that apartment complex to dry. But tonight he says he's upset.
Hey, Matt. What's up? My room got flooded out, so I might not be able to come to work tomorrow. I have nothing anymore. Frustrated, you know. I just started getting stuff back together. And I've been there like 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's just one of the many residents in that building that say they have lost almost everything, and a lot of them are looking for some place to live tonight. It's a similar situation in other parts of this area of Jeff Davis. Tammy Eswick, WDSU News.
We are now in a different era. We're in the era of climate change, where we have these kind of rains every week or every month.
Telling New Orleanians who are wet and underwater that because of climate change, this is a new normal for the city of New Orleans is completely unacceptable.
A heated response from City Council member Jason Williams after nearly a foot of water crept into houses Saturday evening. Williams says this is not and should not be considered the new normal, as the city sewerage and water board claimed last night and today. And now the City Council as a whole came together to say the level of flooding that we saw last night from just a rainstorm is without question unacceptable.
If we can't handle a bad storm, then what will we do when there is a hurricane? And Naaman Stewart was very clear about the history of times there's been flooding in the Zulu Club. So something is different with that pumping station than times past.
But tonight, other leaders are standing by their statements, saying all pumps were working despite the images of all of that flooding. Tonight, WDSU reporter Aubrey Killian spoke with angry flood victims who are demanding to know if the pumps were in fact on. How could they have been properly working?
Is there anything that prevented them from pumping correctly, even the slightest bit?
Yeah, we don't have any information that would suggest that the pumps were not working as designed. When you get that much rainfall in a short period of time, it takes time for them to catch up.
Deputy Mayor Ryan Burney says all 24 Surge and Water Board drainage pumping stations were operational and active during Saturday's storm. Burney says areas of New Orleans saw as much as 8 to 10 inches of rain.
Our capacity is such that it can handle 1 inch the first hour and a ½ inch subsequently. And so when you get those amounts of rain in a short period of time, it's going to take many, many hours for the pumping system to catch up.
But what about the other pumping stations in the city? Bernie says some pumps were not activated as they are not designed for this type of weather event.
We'll also receive reports about the outfall canal pumping system not working. It's important to note that the outfall canals at 17th Street, London Avenue, and Orleans Avenue are made for storm surge events when the floodgates are closed to pump water out into the lake when surge might be otherwise pushing it in. They are not intended to be used for rainfall events like we had.
And why did water continue to rise well after the rain stopped?
The water rose before it went down. That's a normal occurrence when you have this much rain in this period of time, but we're going back to look to make sure that there weren't any minor issues.
NOPD, NOFD, and EMS responded to more than 200 emergency calls related to flooding, but there were no major injuries. A total number of flooded homes is being calculated. The city did say hundreds of vehicles in Lakeview, Gentilly, Mid-City, and Treme have water damage. And with more rain expected and a saturated ground,
We believe we've seen the worst of it, but we never know. And so we all have to stay vigilant.
At City Hall, Aubrey Killian, WDSU News.
And the city says they have been in contact with the governor, but are not planning on asking for an emergency declaration. While they are adamant the pumps were working Saturday, there will be a review to see how well they performed. And an alert tonight about a school closure in New Orleans. Morris Jeff Community School will be closed Monday because there is still water and flooding in the basement. School officials say at this point classes are scheduled to resume on Tuesday. We'll keep you posted if anything changes. And right now, a vast improvement from yesterday's flooding because of that rain clearing out. WDSU meteorologist Daniel Graves has a look at your forecast. And Daniel, people probably loving this sunshine today.
Yeah, I mean, just taking a look outside, you can see the sunshine has returned. We did have some heavy rainfall this morning. We look to be drying out for the rest of the evening. We do have a few areas still seeing some shower activity this evening, though, so I want to show you where that is. Radar, for the most part, quiet across most of our areas, but as we travel up towards the North Shore, just south of Hammond, across Ponchatoula, that continuing to move towards the northeast. We still have some shower activity that's continuing to move across the area there. And into Mississippi, we still got some of that shower activity continuing to move across there. Poplarville to Picayune had a few isolated showers in the area. This was the rain that we had this morning, though. About 1 to 2 inches again, Doppler indicated, falling across areas that have already been seeing too much rainfall. But that cleared out this afternoon. We haven't seen much rain in the area since, which is definitely some good news. And then up towards the North Shore as well and into Mississippi, 1 to 2 inches, Doppler indicated there. So if you are going out this evening, I am expecting drier conditions across most areas. Still a 20% chance for an isolated shower, but as we go into Monday, we'll still see that chance for more rain. I'll break down that timing coming up here in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Daniel. And despite the heavy flooding that we saw this weekend, Saints training camp is still going on at Tulane University this evening. WDSU sports anchors Fletcher Mackel and Sharif Ishak join us live from Ullman Stadium. And Fletcher, luckily these fans were not rained out this weekend.
Yeah, it's not rained out. It's everything but rain right now. It's very hot, Fletcher, and there maybe 3,000 or 4,000 fans might show up. 7,000 capacity for this practice. It's open to the public. It's free. Now they've had 9 practices so far at their facility, all in the morning. First night practice of the training camp. 2 years ago, they did the same exact thing, night practice, and you had a good amount of fans, and it was good to see for all the black and gold faithful.
That's right. Earlier this week, we had a chance to catch up with Sean Payton and asked him why they did something like this. Again, the team did spend 3 years on the road in West Virginia. The fans have flocked to Airline Drive, so why move practice to Ullman Stadium this evening?
I think it changes the routine up during the day. They're off their feet, and I know it's a lot more fan-friendly because your seating arrangement. So I think, number one, you're not limited to, 1,500 people. You can have as many people, and I think it's better for the fans. So The last time we did it, I thought was really good.
The last time the Saints staged a workout in Tulane's Yulman Stadium, 2015. This evening should also be interesting for Saints wide receivers coach Curtis Johnson. He's the former Tulane University head coach. CJ led the Green Wave to the New Orleans Bowl in 2013, but he was fired following the 2015 campaign. This is the first time he's returned to Yulman Stadium since he was dismissed. Also, one more interesting item. When the Saints practiced here 2 years ago, Drew Brees jokingly said that he loved it because he's an uptown New Orleans resident who lives by Audubon Park. So he said he could walk to the practice, and then after the practice, he actually did walk home with his kids carrying his cleats. It was one of those great moments for the Saints during training camp 2 years ago. No word yet on if number 9 will be walking to and from practice through uptown neighborhoods tonight.
Funny that you say that. I saw it on Twitter the other day. He said he may make that walk back home to uptown. And coming up later in Sports Fletcher, we'll revisit Morton Anderson's speech from last night's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And Adrian Peterson talks about his new diet, and it's some interesting things he had to say about that diet. For Fletcher Mackel, I'm Sharif Ishak. Back to you.
Gotta love those sounds. Despite being rained out yesterday, the Satchmo Fest is back on. The final night of the annual festival will feature performances from Kermit Ruffins and the Barbecue Swingers, along with the original Pinettes Brass Band. It all wraps up tonight at 7:30 with a trumpet tribute to Louis Armstrong. And we are continuing to cover the flooding in New Orleans. If you head over to WDSU.com, you can click through our photo gallery to see all the flood pictures sent in from across the city.